Well, the election did not go the way that we hoped, but we are still here and we are still pushing. My name is Brittany Page and this is the Page Perspective. Today we're talking about the surge of misogynistic hatred online and the struggles that I've seen from media figures to diagnose the antecedent to all of this accurately: Donald Trump's re-election. And before we get into it, I want to say that there's going to be a lot of bleeps in this video. And that is because I'm going to be talking about real things. I'm going to be using real language. Now, when you do that on YouTube, you run the risk of having your video restricted and not being seen at all. So while it's not ideal, and I would prefer to just deal with reality on reality's terms and use real language, you are going to be hearing some beeps, or bleeps. Just be aware of that. I also want to remind you to please subscribe. Most of my views come from people who are not yet subscribed. It's free, it's easy. You just click the subscribe button below this video and it helps the algorithm push my videos into the feeds of people who don't even know I exist, which is a lot of people. I'm hoping to reach 100,000 subscribers soon, get my play button. You guys do want me to have a play button, right? We have to laugh where we can so we don't cry, and right now I take it where I can get it. So I've received threats online. Right now, as I record this video, there's an open investigation into those threats from a couple of voicemails a man left on our voicemail line here. So I have personal experience with this hatred, and I'm genuinely nervous for what is to come. And not just for myself, but for all women who exist in this world, whether online or not. There was a strong push, including from myself here on this channel, to make people aware of the stakes surrounding abortion and women's autonomy should Donald Trump win re-election. You often hear women who support abortion rights adopting the mantra, "my body, my choice." Well, online a new phrase from misogynists has exploded. "Your body, my choice." You heard that right. It was coined by Nazi and Trump fanboy and Trump dinner companion, Nick Fuentes, a truly vile and pernicious figure. From Nick Fuentes' keyboard to the masses, it is spreading like wildfire. And make no mistake, it is a rape threat, but it's also an acknowledgement of the policy choices that have now condemned women to having to prove that they are on death's door before receiving basic health care, or dying because they couldn't access basic health care, or being forced to birth a child they might not otherwise want or cannot care for. Your body, my choice is a threat, but it's also reinforcing where these men believe women belong, under the control of men. A recent report from the Institute of Strategic Dialogue revealed how this spread across the internet. The Institute of Strategic Dialogue is, according to their website, quote, "a group of independent nonprofit organizations dedicated to safeguarding human rights and reversing the rising tide of polarization, extremism, and disinformation worldwide." I want to read from this report and highlight a few of their disturbing findings regarding the explosion in violent and abusive misogynistic rhetoric. Quote, "ISD researchers tracked the narratives targeting women and the discussion of those narratives between November 4th and November 6th, 2024, across Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, and Reddit. The use of derogatory and misogynistic language was already rife among well-noted manosphere and extremist communities on these platforms. And this activity has only gained steam in the past 3 days since the election. ISD also observed reports of these narratives being used to harass women offline, particularly on high school and college campuses. Some of their key findings here, quote, "in the past 24 hours, there has been a 4,600% increase in mentions of the term, 'your body, my choice,' and 'get back in the kitchen' on Twitter. Similarly, misogynistic language, such as the use of dumb to target Harris, television personalities such as Rachel Maddow and others received more than 64,000 mentions on Twitter from more than 42,000 accounts on November 5th. Nick Fuentes, an influential white nationalist podcaster, appears to be one of the early instigators in promoting the phrase on November 5th. His post, quote, "Your Body, My Choice Forever," has received 35 million views. The phrase "your body, my choice" appears to have made its way offline, specifically into schools. Young girls and parents have used social media to share instances of offline harassment. They include the phrase being directed at them within schools or chanted by young boys in classes. And this is the last one. Manosphere influencer Andrew Tate, in a post on Twitter on November 7th, said, quote, "I saw a woman crossing the road today, but I just kept my foot down. Right of way? You no longer have rights." The post received 688,000 views in under 2 hours. Another Twitter user stated, quote, "Women threatening sex strikes, like LMAO, as if you have a say." The post has received 10 million views. Disgusting. Hopefully you understand part of my reason for recently leaving Twitter. I remember when we used to talk about Twitter as the digital town square, but now you get to post the most horrifying things imaginable and boost your views. When in the actual town square, there are consequences for these kinds of threats. They're illegal, but also, and apologies for using a tweet to make this point, but this post here illustrates some of the consequences. Quote, "A random kid in the hall said, 'Your body, my choice,' to one of my students, and she clocked him in the jaw so hard, I will be supporting her through this suspension. And I will tell you, as a young girl, I punched boys in the face for far less. Young, lacking in emotional regulation Brittany Page would also support her through her suspension, but adult, better at emotional regulation Brittany Page also supports her through her suspension. And this is self-defense, but I've watched a handful of panels with political commentators about the increasing threat of violence from men online and in person, and they often struggle to diagnose the problem. And as you know, we like to bring it back to policy around here. And while misogyny didn't begin with Donald Trump or him overturning Roe v. Wade, it certainly hasn't helped. And we're now starting to see the real life consequences of elevating a man like him to a position of power. And I want to play for you now one illustration of this. This is Representative Katie Porter discussing a conversation that she had with her young daughter after Donald Trump's reelection.
So on election night, I went to pick up my daughter from water polo practice, and she's 12, and she got in the car and she was crying. And I said, "Did someone punch you?" Like, water polo is a rough sport. I was like, "Did someone hit you? Did the coach yell at you? What happened?" And she said, "Mom, Trump won. Trump's gonna win. And what if I get and I need to have an abortion?" This is from a 12-year-old, my 12-year-old daughter. And so it was really a reminder of how scary this time is for people, and how important it is for Democrats to have strategies, both at the state level and the federal level, to make sure that we can continue to protect people's rights.
Horrifying. Now, someone actually sent me this clip asking me to talk about it, and the clip that they sent was attached to this post from a conservative. Quote, "I am the mother of 3 daughters. In 6th grade, if your little girl is worried about rape and abortion, then whether by neglect or grooming, you did that. You traded your daughter's innocence to substantiate your own noxious, narcissistic neo-feminism." This is just more partisan hackery, given that any woman can tell you when she started to understand that men looked at her differently in public. And that will typically be under the age of 16. For me, it was probably 13. Any woman can tell you when they hopefully received lessons from trusted adults about what inappropriate touch was and who they should tell if someone touched them in inappropriate ways. All kids should receive these lessons. It's for safety and preventing abuse. And the same people who make up scenarios about kids identifying as cats and using litter boxes in schools suddenly can't fathom a world in which the 12-year-old daughter of a soon-to-be former congresswoman, an active and engaged, educated person, is afraid of new political realities in this country. You know who was pregnant at 12 after abuse? Hadley Duvall. You hopefully remember her and heard her story during the campaign. And she isn't alone. According to RAIN, 1 in 9 girls and 1 in 20 boys under the age of 18 experience abuse or assault. So this isn't some wild scenario for a child to be concerned about, especially when they have an educated parent who teaches them about the realities that exist and how to protect themselves from those realities. And what's particularly repulsive about conservatives trying to silence other people from talking about abuse, pregnancy, or assault is this surge in misogynistic abuse online. There are real-world consequences for denying reality here, and we're about to see that unfold over the next 4 years to an even greater degree. With each new Donald Trump cabinet position nomination where the top qualification appears to be the existence of credible allegations of assault, we see how our society devalues women as it lifts up these violent, abusive men. And that starts at the top with the re-election of Donald Trump. Of course, men feel emboldened to chant, "Your body, my choice." Look at who the president-elect is and what he's been allowed to get away with. Dozens of assault allegations. Found liable for president. It's disgusting. We need to start with accurately diagnosing the problem here. It's Donald Trump. It's a political party that supports policies that restrict freedom. It's the elevating of people who promote dangerous ideas that take us back rather than move us forward. And we can all do our part by intervening to protect others if we see them being harassed in public, if that's something we feel we can safely do. We can talk to people in our lives about these dangerous ideas and ensure that they aren't being drawn in by it, and we can ensure we stay engaged, even if we want more than anything to check out, because there are people who can't afford to check out, because their lives and their rights are very much on the line, and they need our solidarity and they need our support. I'd love to know what you think about all this. Call and let me know, 657-464-7609. Or send an email to idoubt@dollemore.com. You can support my work here on YouTube by clicking the join button below for as little as $1.99 a month, or you can support my work on Patreon, patreon.com/idoubtitpodcast. I recently left Twitter, so you can follow me on social media elsewhere, Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, @Brittany Page. Take care, and I will see you next time.